Hello and welcome back to From the Brink. Hosting today is me, Paul Dehlinger, and hosting with me is Clay Grossman
How's it going, Paul?
and Colby Reynolds.
Howdy, folks.
Well, we finally had it. We had the first sit-down interview with Kamala Harris since officially becoming the Democrat nominee. Guys, what did you think? What did you think about her performance?
It kind of, I don't know, just kind of standard Democrat behavior. A lot of question dodging. Not a lot of people make fun of her for how much she laughs off stuff. She only did that, I think, once or twice in the entire interview, from what I could tell. So I was surprised with the lack of laughing, but just a lot of question dodging and weak answers.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people speculate that her handlers have been telling her not to laugh because she hasn't been doing it quite as much lately, which kind of funny that that's something they would need to tell her. But I mean, yeah, we waited, what was it, 40 days about from the moment Biden dropped out to when Kamala took her first interview, and what we got was 27 minutes all in. And Tim Walz spoke for, what was it, 8 of that. It wasn't the whole time Kamala was speaking. Generally, I would say, she didn't terribly blow herself up. She flubbed a few questions. I think a lot of people online have ripped her for her answer on Joe Biden, her comment on her values staying the same moments after basically acknowledging that she flip-flopped on fracking.
Yeah, well, she wanted you to know, though, that she flip-flopped a lot earlier than you think. She flip-flopped all the way back in her vice presidential debate with Mike Pence. So, I guess if that makes you feel better, she's flip-flopped, much earlier than, the most recent polls, which is really funny. Like, Dana Bash didn't push back on, like, a whole bunch of things, but the only one thing that she really tried to harp on, which, I don't know, maybe you could say that there's, like, a left-wing perspective to try to pressure on fracking, but it was what caused you to change your position? And all she would do was restate that, well, my position has not been to ban fracking, and I've kept that promise as vice president. But she never really explained why. And Dana Bash kept saying, well, was there some science behind that? And I mean, the real answer is what she can't say was like, oh, I looked at the poll numbers and I decided to not, want to ban fracking.
Yeah. And I mean, not to rag on Dana Bash too much, but I do think that there's a little bit of criticism that needs to be had there. I would say there's 3 or 4 instances where a simple follow-up question would have been, especially with our Joe Biden answer. We still have not had some insider knowledge on that, some insider knowledge directly from either Biden or Kamala. And I think they seem pretty content to not talk about that until November. So, yes, she did do her first interview. Honestly, it's going to be, I would say, if I was just judging it even from an outsider perspective, it's on par. It's not going to help her. It's not going to, and it clearly hadn't helped her, and it clearly hadn't hurt her too much. So, all in all, not a bad, but I mean, she finally did it. That's the real takeaway.
I think if you're like on the right, hoping that she was going to blow her campaign up with this debate, yeah, you definitely didn't get that. But yeah, it didn't give any extra encouragement that she's going to overcome expectations. Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, I think we all would probably prefer that the interviewer was Brett Baer, but anybody that was going to be a little more critical of her probably wouldn't have got that interview. So that was probably as best we could have hoped for her to actually do it. I guess Kamala's getting all the flack from it, but Walz was pretty evasive too. Like, she did ask him about, it seems like you've kind of lied about your service history, about, the claim that, oh, I've carried, weapons into war. And I want to ban the weapons I carried into war. And yeah, she called him out for that, and the fact that it's not true. He's never been in, combat experience. And he really deflected on that, saying like, oh, well, I may have problem with my grammar. And it's like, it's really, the issue is that I actually care about dead kids. It's not the issue that I lied about it. And then what was the other one? And he kind of made like a subtle jab at JD Vance, like, well, I'm never going to criticize, somebody else's military service. So like, okay, well, I mean, you're doing something that's, I mean, to me, like, worse than anything is the fact that instead of just saying, yeah, I made a mistake, I kind of I thought this played well to use this phrase, like weapons I carried in war. Instead, he's like, oh, well, I actually care about dead kids. I mean, to me, that's disgusting. You're just using, like, you know, basically victims as a prop to get out of a mistake you made.
Yeah. I thought, shoot, I thought Dana Bash should have pushed on a couple questions. What was the last Harris question we were talking about? I'm sorry. I was picturing the wall scenes in my head.
The fracking one was the only one we've really gone over.
Oh, yeah. Do y'all think – I have a theory now. Do y'all think Dana Bash only pushed back on that one because she personally, like, hates fracking enough to want to put in the effort to push Harris back on that? That was, like you said, that was the most effort she put in to push back on anything.
I could see, like, definitely a more partisan person doing that. I mean, I'm sure she's anti-fracking, but I think she, you know, I mean, we forget that these journalists do think they have actual credibility. So she probably thinks, like, well, this is the most obvious one that people are kind of questioning. Like, it was a complete 180. Like, if I don't like drill on this, then, you know, it's going to be hard for me to act like I actually, you know, did a legitimate interview with her. So I think she felt like it's one and done. Like, once I, you know, grilled her on that, it's the rest of it's like, we're pretty good. I will say the one other thing she just would have kind of, you know, frankly stated that a lot of people do think the economy under Trump was better. And she kind of just put that as the standard. And I think this is one of the more things I think she's kind of, Harris deserves criticism the way they're phrasing it. I mean, both sides do this where they kind of selectively use nuance, but the idea that, like, oh, you know, oh, we had so many problems that we had to fix when we came into the office, and it's just so magical that we got the economy up and running. I was like, one, I mean, the economy was, you know, really bad when they came into office, not only because of COVID, but because a lot of blue governors had still locked down their states. So it's not like you can blame, like, the Trump administration or COVID for that. I mean, a lot of states carried the lockdowns on way further than they needed to.
And I would further blame these lingering effects of inflation, especially by what we printed right after Biden got in office. He directed the Fed Reserve to print, I think, a quarter of all dollars ever spent because of the Build Back Better plan. Is that right? Not spent, quarter of all dollars ever printed.
The number I've heard is that 20% of currency was printed in, like, the last 5 years. But I don't know if that was direct, because, I mean, I don't think the president can directly tell the Fed to print money.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, the Treasury just borrows basically until they're capped off by Congress, and Congress chooses to extend the limit or not. But yeah, I mean, look, there was like a double whammy thing with, you know, COVID, you know, messed up a lot of supply chain things. Plus, you know, when oil hit negative dollars, oil companies stopped investing in drilling. And then plus they decided to dump all this money, you know, some of it, you know, actually before, like, during the end of the Trump administration, but definitely during, like, Build Back Better. And I forgot the other bill that they passed, but yeah, I mean, all this contributed to, like, the high inflation we saw in 2022, I believe, is where it peaked at like 9.5%.
Yeah. I think that if I remember correctly in the interview, Dana Bash pressed hard on if you've been in office for this long, why haven't you tackled homing prices and the week?
Oh yeah,
I mean, I think that was her shining moment. And yeah, like you said, Harris just said, but we had all these other things to tackle first. And
yeah, it's like, oh, I haven't got around to it. Okay.
Yeah.
People on, like, X are super annoyed about this. Like, well, she can't do it. She's the vice president. It's like, okay, if that's your argument, then you have to explain that there's some, you know, policy that's just super good, but for whatever reason, you know, Joe Biden, you know, can't do it or doesn't want to do it. So I mean, if he doesn't want to do it, there's probably some, you know, reason, like, it'd be, you know, there'd be some consequences to doing it. I mean, you know, we haven't talked about this yet, but I mean, her really only original policy idea is talking about price controls, which have never worked ever.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, the other economic policy I heard was she wants to extend the child tax credit, and that's supposed to magically fix the economy, but that's just going to tax probably the higher tax bracket, which is just going to slow the economy even more.
Well, I mean, they probably won't raise taxes to pay for it, but I mean, it's just adding to our debt. I mean,
Yeah.
they want to go from, I think it's what, 2,000 now to go to 6,000.
Yeah, 6,000.
I mean, if you're a new parent, that might help, but I mean, there's a lot of people that aren't new parents that are, it's a very limited thing, and I think most people see it as a gimmick. Like, if you ask me, like, am I 100% against that policy? I mean, no, but one, I don't want to go into further debt to pay for, a new basic welfare program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
You don't want to. You mean to tell me you don't want to increase the birth rate, Paul, by making the child tax credit thousands of dollars more?
Look, I mean, I think it'd be great if like we got our birth rate back to like replacement level, but I don't know if like a huge, new welfare program is the way to do it. I mean, Hungary's tried that, and it, worked for, I don't know, 1 or 2 years, and now they're back at below replacement, and it's, costing some insane amount of their budget to do.
Yeah.
The only way you're going to fix that is if you just lower taxes for pretty much all Americans, because it's I think history shows that the more money a family's making, the more likely they are to have kids because they have the spendable income to raise kids.
Okay, yeah, but the problem with that is there's a lot of people in the country that don't pay any taxes now, that don't pay any income tax. You can't, lower their taxes more unless you're like giving them a credit, which, I guess is what they're suggesting we do. But, I feel like if your decision to have kids or not was based on a extra $2,000 check a year, I don't know. I don't think I want to give you that check just so you can have a kid. I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Well, I mean, Clay, what else did you notice from the interview?
Honestly, if I were to pick a point at some things, there's really not a lot else to say. I mean, she split the baby again on the Israel question. The child tax credit was an increase to $6,000. Fracking, we've already talked about. If even if you were looking at this from an unbiased perspective, you would acknowledge Kamala as a flip flopper. I would say that it doesn't hurt her. There's nothing all that we've learned from this interview. I think we've learned a lot more about Dana Bash and them, that they're not willing to ask. They're not willing to ask questions, and they're really willing to let this slip by and let this slip off as her only interview, and it will be her only interview until elections. So this 27 minutes of policy is all we're going to get. So,
yeah, well, and I would even push back that she split the baby. I think her Israel position actually kind of reverted back to a kind of a more progressive issue. I mean, they asked her if she'd be willing to halt arms shipments to Israel over, trying to, I guess, broker a peace. She's like, well, we need a peace. Yeah, well, I mean, under what circumstances? If the peace was like, oh, Hamas gets to keep killing all the Jews, is that a legitimate peace? I mean, I don't know. People just say things because they think it sounds good. Like, well, too many innocent Palestinians have died. Like, well, I mean, I'd probably agree with that. But I mean, whose fault is that? I mean, the terrorists that are hiding, in civilian populations that forces Israel to, bomb the terrorists and have all this collateral damage.
Yeah, I guess splitting the baby is a little bit less the word to use, and more of it's just typical politician jargon. I mean, it's like Republicans defaulting to America first. We need peace. We need peace and a ceasefire. Well, what does the plan look like? Who rules the Gaza Strip after this war? We just need peace, right? And I'm looking forward to 2 months of that, and 20,000 Pennsylvanians deciding between that and the President Trump. So truly, I would say from the brink of idiocracy, maybe we're right on the edge of idiocracy. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, I think we talked about Israel, so I mean that's a good segue to what's going on in the Middle East right now. I mean, they went into Rafah, a couple months ago or a month ago, but more recently they bombed some targets in southern Lebanon. This has gotten a whole bunch of Democrats really upset, and they've targeted Netanyahu as the target of all this anger. I mean, I don't know what you'd expect a country to do if they know missiles are targeted at them. Like, doesn't it, wouldn't it actually de-escalate the situation to get rid of like those targets so you don't have to then go to war with Lebanon if they've, killed God knows, like another 10,000, people.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, this is another example of a major. I mean, it has to be seen as another major success. How many thousands of lives were saved here? I mean, and we're now what 2 weeks out on this, or a week out on this, and we still have yet to see a response from Iran, even if it was just shooting more missiles that got shot down. So I see this as a pretty big win, and it should hopefully allow the Israelis to finish in the Gaza Strip, and I mean, hopefully, again, not to sound like Kamala Harris, not to sound like Comrade Kamala, but it's going to actually lead to some sort of peaceful resolution, God willing.
Yeah, Colby, any thoughts on that?
I'm a bit surprised we haven't seen Iran strike back from their that missile strike in Tehran, a month ago. We still haven't seen them do what they planned or claimed that they were going to do.
They did respond, but they got shot down. Remember, like that was.
And I thought the only drone strike they did was in May.
And I'll say I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have a response at this point because of how big of a political failure that was.
Yeah.
For the Iranians. So I don't see this. Sorry, Colby. I don't mean to.
No, you're good.
I didn't mean to end your time. Yes, a long history Israel does have of preemptive strikes. 6-Day War, of course, probably being the leading example of this. So yeah, you'll love to see it. You love to see a Western ally be able to actually stop a much bigger attack. So
yeah, I mean, I think Iran probably would want to respond, but one, they've already tried and it didn't work, which I think kind of takes away some of your national pride and makes you look incompetent. But I mean, also just they're kind of like they have their own problems to deal with. Like their president or former president was recently died in a helicopter crash. So I guess the new guy's nominally considered more of a moderate. But I mean, they recently had to put down a rebellion like half a year ago. So I don't think they want to rock the boat either. So
yeah, Iran's in an incredibly weak position. They had their. Sorry, you go.
No, well, I was gonna say, yeah, they did actually claim though I think they hacked into the Vance campaign and got like information on like or maybe it was the Trump campaign. It was about their documents about JD Vance's background check or whatever.
Yeah, yes, that is true. But they are still also reeling from. You said it, Paul. There was their version of George Floyd 2 years ago, and the president dying. They're in no position to strike, and Hezbollah won't make a equivalent to October 7th without Iranian support. So yeah, massive win. We love to see it. I would say, will it change much in the grand scheme of things? I mean, I'd say you're still likely to have Israel finish out in Rafah and then maybe get to a soft detente potentially with Hezbollah, and maybe they don't make another attack. So, you love to see it. I really can't. You really can't complain too much about this. So,
all right. Well, I guess we'll segue into some more domestic political stuff. Recently, Tulsi Gabbard officially endorsed Trump. Actually, I think Clay had explained to me that this hadn't already happened. I had been under the impression that during the RFK endorsement, Tulsi had already endorsed Trump, but nope, she's now officially Team Trump. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, kind of speaks to the greater realignment that we've had. I know that Tulsi had quite a bit of Tulsi bros, but let's not forget that Tulsi was in the left for a long time. I mean, she was considered a progressive or for stretches. I mean, she was probably closest aligned to Bernie Sanders in 2016. Don't forget that as well. So speaks a lot of brevity to this. I mean, who could be surprised after Tulsi torpedoed Kamala so hard in 2020 that she would not be a big fan? But yeah, I mean, in line with RFK, which I believe we talked about on the previous podcast, and Tulsi, it shows that there is a contingent of people out there that are Democrats that would be considered progressives that have absolutely been scorned by the Democratic Party because of the actions they had to take in late July through to August to get Joe Biden off the ticket. So, I mean, again, love to see it. Pretty big win for Trump on that one. We are RFK as well. Nate Silver currently has him as favored. Now, next Tuesday's debate will be another real seminal moment for that. But it does go to show you that even after the DNC, Trump has had a few wins here, Tulsi and RFK. So, yeah, you love to see it there.
Well, I mean, I guess I'd push back. Like, does it help her? I mean, unlike, like, let's say like Jeff Van Drew, who, was like a very moderate Democrat who ended up switching to the Republicans, endorsing Trump. I mean, this isn't like a blue dog. This is, like you said, a progressive, like, who's just so upset with the current Democratic establishment that she's going to support Trump. I mean, this is almost completely over foreign policy. Are those kind of voters really still up in the air, or do you think they're already comfortable in Team Trump?
Well, it's hard for me to imagine there's a lot of Tulsi bros out there that were still willing to vote for the Democrats.
Yeah.
So in terms of the polls, in terms of actual numbers, it's not going to make much of a difference. But optically, does it look good for Trump to have some Democrats on his side? Absolutely, yes. If you're gonna make the argument that Trump is, which he is, quite frankly, the more moderate candidate of the two, it does help to have some background backing people for this, even if people don't really know much about Tulsi or RFK for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, well, Colby, what are your thoughts on it? I mean, you're already gonna vote for Trump, but like, I mean, how do you think some of these voters are gonna feel about it? Because just to me personally, I mean, I was already not gonna vote for Trump, but it is more alienating to me to have somebody like Tulsi Gabbard openly saying like, "Oh, yep, I'm definitely Team Trump."
Interesting. I never thought it'd be alienating. That kind of makes sense when I think about it now, but
it'll make more sense when we look at the people, the Republicans that are endorsing Harris.
What?
I said it will make more sense when we look at the type of Republicans that are endorsing Harris.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess like Clay said, it's a political win. I'm going to be honest, I didn't look into this story too much, but I haven't seen from the headlines I've looked at any change in the polls really from this Gabbard endorsement. I think it's still in a lot of states pretty close. I don't know how much of an effect this had, but the optics of someone like her endorsing Trump, I think will help him somewhat, but I don't believe it's going to be a election winner.
Yeah, if anything, the RFK dropout helped Trump more in the polls.
I agree.
If you look at the numbers behind that, it kind of reminds you of Ross Perot in 1992 when he dropped out for that 5 or 6 month stretch. Clinton just soared, and then even when Ross Perot came back into the race, he couldn't George Bush could never catch up. So, yeah, there was a lot more. It turns out there was a lot more people on the Kennedy side that were pro Trump. And so, yeah, Kennedy, Gabbard, all this is good news. You got to wonder which one of them will wind up. I mean, I know I'm personally holding out for Secretary of Defense Tulsi, but you know what? Paul might have an aneurysm if that happened there. So
yeah, well, I mean, we brought up polls recently. I think it's pretty clear that Harris did not get a poll bump from the DNC. My explanation is I think it was all front loaded. Like, there was a lot of Democrats that were unenthused with Biden, and then once they got a change in candidate, they came home, as they say. But that does mean that she's kind of already, I would say, peaked. And I mean, I think it's showing. I mean, I would say it's still neck and neck, but it does look like that Trump has gotten a little bit of a poll boost since the DNC, like since Harris peaked. And I mean, I think he's either tied to maybe slightly losing the national race, and I think he's up in 2 or 3 of the swing states. I think Georgia is looking more favorable to him, and I think Pennsylvania is. And I think if he gets those 2, he's kind of a lock, right?
Yeah, I know it. I mean, listen, Kamala was such a front loaded thing. You're right, Paul. Biden dropping out, there was joy for that aspect of it, but people have been slowly reminded of why they don't like Kamala and why it would have been better choice for her and Biden to have dropped out. So yeah, you wonder the RFK effect. Trump's had some good news here lately. You wonder how much that's also played into this. So yeah, Nate Silver has it 63-37 Trump. But this is going to be the next big event, and perhaps the last one, the one that we'll have that. Now we're through both conventions, and considering that it's unlikely that we're going to have a second presidential debate between these two candidates in particular, is this the last? Is this the last moment that things are going to shift drastically? I mean, you always have the October surprise. You know, there's always going to be those kind of things. But with as polarized as we are in this current climate, if Trump or Kamala win this race or win this debate, I think it could come down to whoever wins that debate will win this presidential election.
Yeah, I could see that. Either side that wins is not going to want to give the opponent another debate. I don't know if y'all heard, but yeah, they did finally settle on the rules for the next debate, and they're just going to default to the last ones. But apparently, this was a big controversy. At first, Harris was saying like, "Oh, she wanted the microphones to be on, so mainly so she could be interrupted and say, I'm speaking now." But and I think Trump wants the mic to be on so he can interrupt. Which, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I think that's terrible for him.
Yeah.
I think he does better when he seems like the more reasonable person. Oh, we talked about some of the good news for Trump. There is some bad news, specifically the Cheney endorsement. Both Cheneys, both Liz and former Vice President Dick Cheney, said they were going to vote for Harris, which I guess I was surprised about. I didn't. I mean, I guess I could kind of see Liz Cheney. I didn't think Dick Cheney would get back into politics. They asked Bush if he would endorse either candidate, and he said he would not be endorsing any candidate this go round.
Dang, geez. I didn't hear about that. Yeah,
that's not.
Sorry, you go, Clay.
No, I was gonna say that on George Bush, that's not very surprising. He's been publicly staying away from all this for years. The Cheneys was a little bit surprising. Liz, I guess, not a little bit less so, like you said, Paul. But for Dick, that, I mean, obviously, yeah, that's a huge deal. Of course, they were always in the left side of certain aspects of it, but I guess I also have the question to you, Paul.
I have to stop you there. Where are you getting that from? I mean, other than Dick Cheney's daughter being gay.
Yeah,
I don't know where he's been on the left side of issues. He was the devil before Donald Trump came along. Like, the Democrats hated him back in the day.
Yeah,
truth. But I mean, yes, okay. So even so, I mean, you would have never really called George Bush or Cheney real fire eaters. I mean, if the other side of the party was represented by, I don't know, just Pat Buchanan, for example, you would have never considered Bush or Cheney to be in the political right, or the right side of their own party. So yeah, I mean, it just speaks again. It's back to we're in the midst of a realignment. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. I mean, you could probably say in terms of foreign policy now, most neocons would be more in line with the Harris side of things, and I guess that's where the Cheneys are coming from too, as well. So it's interesting to see.
I think they're concerned less about the foreign policy than more like just kind of like an institutional thing. I mean, I didn't watch their endorsement. I don't know if they said like we have to do this in order to like help Ukraine or we're not. Because I mean, if you're looking at the rhetoric, I mean, Trump's rhetoric is still not that pro Russia. It seems like some of his hardest core supporters are more isolationist than he is sometimes.
Yeah, and I will say just one other note. I mean, I can't imagine how hard this is going to actually impact Trump. Again, looking at Liz Cheney's last primary one where she actually did lose, she lost by like 60%. It was 60-30, something like that, or 66 or 34, something like that. So yeah, total. I mean, it's more fascinating as a case study in realignment and such that are going on. Same is true with Gabbard. Will it have very much impact? Probably not. But yeah, it's all gonna boil down to next Tuesday or this Tuesday. What's going to happen there at this debate? And I think some of the rules, which were obviously very argued over, I think it's actually going to be very helpful to Trump. Again, the mic's muted. They're both going to be standing. I know those were big things that were talked about. Notes. Paul, have they announced if there would be commercial breaks for this one? as well? Do you know if you?
I don't think they have, but I would assume. I mean, it's going to be an hour and a half interview or debate, right? So, I mean, they did breaks during the last one, so I don't see why there wouldn't be during this one.
For this one as well.
I think ABC's doing it, right? That was another controversy. I think Trump wanted to, after the first debate, wanted to move. Oh, did he really say Fox, or did he just wanted to a different one than ABC?
He specifically was throwing out Fox.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of a hard sell. I don't know why he thought he was gonna get that one through.
Yeah, well, you know what? Pick your battles, right?
Yeah.
If you start off by saying you want Fox, and you can eventually get to where you have again a favorable format like this.
Yeah.
But the real question is how it work. Where are the questions going to be pointed towards? If it is going to be very one-sided, the questions here. I mean, they are going to have to ask Kamala something. I think there's no way that she's going to be able to flake away like she did within the interview. So they're going to have to ask her some questions. I don't know. My inclination still says Trump is going to step over himself and say something crazy about 2020 or something like that, and shoot himself in the foot. But I mean, where do y'all see things? I think that it's an advantageous setup for Trump, but then again, Trump is still Trump at the end of the day.
Well, they say Harris has been preparing for this debate for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 days. So, I mean, if that's the case and you can't interrupt somebody, it's probably going to be, memorized, pre-recorded things about the economy or X issue. As far as whether that will work, I mean, if they can come up with good canned responses, it could make her sound like she's, a more serious candidate, like, actually ready to take on the job. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Without interrupting, I think Trump he could have some good zingers as long as you kind of know what she's gonna kind of predict what she's gonna say, like canned responses she's gonna say, and just be like point out whatever, like we've been talking about, like, well, if you want to do this, why haven't y'all done it right now? Y'all are in power. So yeah, that's one of my thoughts on that.
See, I just everyone was praising him so much in the last debate. And I think that had more to do with bad Biden. So again, if the standard is just be alive and don't say a ton of crazy stuff, I think that she will win. And she, unlike Trump, seems to actually have an interest in doing preparation and a lot of coaching for this. So yeah, I tend to lean towards Trump is going to lose this debate.
Interesting.
But it can't be by much. It will have a noticeable impact. I wouldn't be surprised if the betting odds shift back to 60-40 Kamala. But I don't think.
What are your thoughts on that?
I honestly expect Trump to win. If he can keep his demeanor from the last one with Joe Biden, and judging from Harris's performance back in 2020, I think Trump could win. This is Harris's first debate since 2020, correct?
Yeah.
So I think Trump has a decent chance to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if he shoots himself in the foot by saying something stupid.
Yeah, I mean, Harris is definitely going to bring up abortion. That's probably going to be her strongest issue. I don't know. I could see, like, without being interrupted, I could still see one of the questions towards her being a very mild and simple question that she just doesn't have a response for. Other, like, kind of like we're talking about, well, like, how long have you known that you don't think Joe Biden really is up for it? And it's like, or if he is up for it, then why are you running? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, or what's like, somebody asked her, what reason is Joe Biden really not running? He's actually never said that. He just says, I've decided I'm not the person for this election, but nobody said why. So they could ask her about that, and if she just kind of and goes on a ramble, it's going to look a little shady, I think, to a lot of people.
I think on policy stuff too, she's really going to gun for sounding moderate, like really moderate.
Yeah,
that'd be my guess.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, I think she's tried doing that, which is why it's weird that she's kind of stayed pretty hard on the price controls. Oh, and we never talked about this, but there's been kind of floating the idea of unrealized capital gains tax, where you pay money on the theoretical increase in the value of your assets. So if you buy a stock, the stock goes up 20% and you don't sell it, you still have to pay tax on that 20% gain. So you have to sell the thing to pay the tax. And,
yeah. And you gotta love Mark Cuban coming out and saying how that would literally destroy the stock market.
Oh, he
and
actually said that.
Yeah, he said that, and it was he's obviously still publicly supporting Kamala, and it begs the question. I mean, how stupid do you have to be to acknowledge the double face right here, right? Acknowledge how bad of a policy that is, yet still be willing to throw millions of dollars behind our campaign. So again, but I mean, what could we expect from an intellectual titan like Mark Cuban? So, but
I think we're also going to get some push from Trump's side on how Harris scurried herself up the ladder so fast and didn't really. She was one of the least active members in Congress ever. Am I wrong on that?
Well, I mean, she was in the Senate. I have no idea how. I don't know how many bills she sponsored or not. So she was did she come into office in 2018? No, it had to have been before that, I would think. Yeah, I mean, but she hasn't been in the Senate for a long time. I mean, she does not have a list of a great accomplishment. I don't know if this line of attack is going to be very effective, but she went from, I think a prosecutor in the San Francisco office to California AG to one of the senators from California to vice president. I mean, I don't think I'd have anything I'd want to brag for, but as from like a liberal perspective, I don't know. She's tried to make the argument that as AG, she prosecuted, as they like to phrase it, transnational criminal organizations.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a good line, but I am skeptical there's any evidence that she was particularly hard on like cartels. I mean, I think there were police officers that came out that said she wanted to, before she prosecuted on some of these cases in San Francisco, wanted to give them 3 arrests before they were going to prosecute. It's just, nonsense. Well, do you have anybody else have any comments on Trump's potential debate performance?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes without saying too, but avoid the personal attacks. It's people are really pissed off about the political switch, the Biden switch at the last moment. People still feel like there's unanswered questions there. I think it was something like 80% of people said that if they were defending Biden's age, they were lying. So that's there's winning issues. I mean, there's super majorities, and then there's, I mean, why is this not the only thing we're talking about, right? So to me, it just makes sense to hit her on that early. And if you're Trump, you're just gonna hope that you can throw her off her game. And she's not used to the spotlight. She hadn't been in a real debate that actually mattered, probably ever. I mean, at this pace, I mean, she dropped out so early that she wasn't in the final few debates. So this is for her the biggest political moment of her career. There's actually going to be real questions. And for Trump, you gotta live in the moment, because, and you gotta understand that this is very political. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm flubbing my words. This is a very serious moment right here. This is your last chance, really. And if we were all saying that this is the last seminal moment of this campaign, and this is the last time Kamala is going to be asked questions, I mean, and for Trump personally, not to get into the legal stuff, but he's got a lot riding on this. There's a lot to be said here. So I would say avoid the personal attacks and stick to the winning issues. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know, Colby, you kind of brought up that she's tried to appear as the moderate, and like I said, abortion's going to be one of those issues that she can, I guess, claim to be the moderate on it. But I mean, Trump's also doing the same thing. I think maybe to a lot of Republicans and conservatives' chagrin, but I think he recently said he would vote for the amendment in Florida's abortion. What do you call it? Not amendment, but whatever, abortion law that they're voting for in Florida, which would, I think, extend abortion rights from where it is to, I don't know if they're extending it from 8 to 12 weeks, but so he's currently saying that he would vote to extend abortion rights in Florida.
Yeah, congratulations. Thank you, Donald. You're always so supportive. You're always so supportive to the Christian conservative. We really appreciate you over here. You're so helpful.
Maybe you can get like a Planned Parenthood endorsement or some of that Planned Parenthood money.
Now that would be a political realignment worth talking about.
Oh my God! Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know what pro-lifers would do. Just, I don't know, tear out our hair, I guess. Well, I guess now we'd probably still defend it saying, well, I mean, 12 is better than till point of birth, which, I mean, that's true. 12 is still less than point of birth,
Yeah.
but then we're
I
just
think
kind of backtracking.
I think sorry, I don't want to just get too belabored on this, but I still feel like the pro-lifers are going to come home, even with Trump trying to step in on a rake on the 12 weeks question. He gets so much grandfathered in support for the Roe v. Wade stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
is it? Yeah, and then that's better than Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, who have not ever gone on record, to my knowledge, saying where they would establish a deadline. So, yeah, again, they're still going to hit Trump on being a radical on abortion when he's going to literally be able to throw that at there. What a timeline we're in. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, he did a pretty good job with regard to abortion during the Biden debate. So if he can, take the moderate position away from them and, castigate them as being, up into point of birth, North, what was the old governor of Virginia's name?
Northam.
Northam, who's like saying we're going to abort potentially even after birth. Then, yeah, I mean, I think that's easy to win, but, I'm not a middle of the road voter. So, I don't know.
I don't know if this is a hot take as well for the Trump camp to follow, but I just don't think you can use anything that was said in the Biden, or not anything, but most of what was said in the Biden debate as a good case study, because I personally think if it was a normal timeline, Trump would have probably lost that debate. But that same time that he's talking about his abortion answer, Joe Biden's over there talking about how women were being raped by their sisters. So there's just complete non sequiturs over here. So I just another thing. I worry that Trump is going to be too overly confident in this debate because of how bad that he smoked Biden in this last one. That could very well be a downfall for him. So,
well, and then there's the important statement that the Biden administration was going to beat Medicare.
Yes, we can only hope we get such chicanery from the Kamala Harris camp. I really want a good word vomit salad out there. So yeah, that will be really nice to see.
Well, we're getting pretty close to the hour mark, so we'll kind of like speed through some of these last news headlines. Some of them good, only one of them particularly bad for Trump. There was a controversy over the Trump campaign. They were at a Gold Star family's funeral at Arlington Cemetery, and I guess one of the staff members there at Arlington Cemetery asked a member of the Trump team to put away whatever device you're using to recording. Instead of doing that, they made a big fuss about it, and then they went on social media to say that the person was deranged. And so now then the Army had to get involved and back up their person's perspective, which I think you could have claimed this was a Harris win had she not stepped in it and then decided to act sanctimonious about it, which she said how despicable it was they behaved like this at the cemetery, which then caused a lot of, members of Gold Star, family members to call the Harris administration for, their response or, how they behaved during the whole Afghanistan debacle, about the, service members that died during the withdrawal, and, some of the behavior of that, most notably Biden checking his watch during the funeral. So, I think all around it just, made both campaigns look, bad and incompetent. Any thoughts on it?
I mean, I would love for Kamala again to bring that up in the debate, because that should be a potential trap question or a trap response that Trump can set the record straight on. But there's also obviously from the side of it, which is how much will this actually impact things to the median voter, to the person who already is just getting toned in, or might not be super locked into reading everything. The headlines are certainly going to hurt. From that perspective, it is a Kamala Harris win, but it should very much so open up the drawer for Trump to then go and bring up Afghanistan, which will be, if he's smart, will be, I mean, it's what he's going to say 100 times during the debate or when he's out campaigning. So we'll wait to be seen. But at the end of the day, just another made up media controversy that's going to be forgotten in a week. So
yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. It'll probably be forgotten. As far as whether it's important, I mean, I think military voters are probably probably a group of voters that there's still some room to move on. I mean, I know we all just kind of assume that all people in the military are conservative, but got a lot of black people in the military, got a lot of college educated people in the military, the whole officer corps. So I think there could be some flexibility in there, and I definitely don't think Kamala Harris is somebody that's gonna help bring military voters to the Democrat side. So yeah, I guess we'll just wait and see. Colby, any thoughts on this before we go to DOJ?
I don't think so, really. I think y'all hit on it pretty good.
Okay, so it's some good news for Trump. The DOJ, since the classified documents case was dismissed by Judge Cannon, Jack Smith decided to refile it, taking out the more controversial parts or parts that were decided are under executive. What is it? Executive, not privilege, executive immunity. So yeah, he took out any of his dealings with, I think, anybody from his own DOJ. So they ruled that you can't charge a president for, I guess, whatever, just because of conversations he has with his DOJ. So they refiled it, and I guess Jack Smith is still trying to get a case before election. I don't know if you can have any hope of that.
So from what I understand, with the deadlines to file all this stuff, it's going to be incredibly unlikely that it's going to be heard before. But I mean, they could theoretically file it super early and get this may be one where they are probably going to expedite it as much as possible. But I would imagine, again, this is something that's going to be very rightly so appealed, especially if they do it hastily. So it remains to be seen. I still think even with Trump taking at the very least a minor L on this one, there with the Supreme Court ruling, I could very well see this again just being delayed beyond the election.
Yeah,
and once again, it begs the question, if with respect to the Marchand case as well with sentencing, and with this one as well, how much does the results on November 5th actually impact this? What is the sentencing going to look like? If he loses, does Marchand actually not follow through with actually sending him to jail, versus if he wins, right? And with these cases, how quickly are they going to expedite that? If the hearing is outside of the election. So, I mean, yeah, Trump has a lot to lose here, very clearly. With them bringing up these cases again, that's a loss. But Marchand being delaying the sentencing hearing, it's only like 2 or 3 weeks after the election, but still after when people are gonna again go back to tone out, or after it stops mattering, really. Yeah, that's again a lot of Trump wins. Even the losses at Arlington Cemetery, there's some angle for attack here. So
yeah, I think it's what's gonna matter more is whether or not he wins the election, not like any of the legal arguments. I mean, I'm sure he's already appealed the hush money case. But yeah, so I mean, it's definitely good news that Marchand has decided to delay sentencing until after the election. So I guess that leads us to our last item of the day, which to me is probably the most hilarious, is that the DOJ, I guess, arrested some, I think, Russian nationals over failing to register with FIA, the Foreign Registration Act, because they were paying right-wing media commentators, some big ones, enormous sums of money, some smaller ones, very little sums of money, to build a platform. I've been following this actually pretty closely. They've actually made it seem like they were paying specifically for good news about Russia. It seems like more they were just paying right-wing hosts to try to build up this platform, which they haven't said it's Tenet, but I guess everybody assumed it's Tenet because the organization was registered in Tennessee. But I mean, they paid a lot of people like Dave Rubin, Tim Pool. The one in charge of it was actually Lauren Chin, who I just despise. But I mean, yeah, these people all probably had a pretty anti-Ukraine position from the beginning. So I don't think the money ended up changing their position. The real funny thing is they didn't like get very much influence. They like had very little views on all this, all their videos that Tenet uploaded.
Yeah, I want my check, Russia. If you're listening, I mean, you probably are listening to this. So yeah, I was anti-Ukraine. Now I've gone more to center, I think, on this issue. But for so long, I was arguing this. All those needless nights fall when we were at the bars, arguing with my neocon friends, and yeah, I got nothing out of this. So thanks a lot over there, But yeah, I mean, it's still very probably one of the more funny, I think, election cycles, because I mean, it's going to be the same deal as the last Russia scandal.
That's the comparison I think everybody's making.
In practice, it really doesn't actually matter a whole lot. Sorry, it's just yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Paul. These people were already going to be making pro-Ukraine or pro-Russian content, or at least very least anti-Ukrainian content. So. I'm kind of interested to see. I haven't had a chance to watch yet. I know Tim Pool did an interview with Shapiro. I kind of want to check that out at some point. But
I didn't see that.
Yeah, they did an interview a couple days ago. I think that was probably the only content creator I actually kind of liked from that was caught up in all this. So yeah, it's gonna be probably one of those that gets swept aside because it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah,
but still fascinating. Still a very daunting thought to think about. So.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't mention, but like, a lot of these commentators have very different positions. Like Lauren Chin is very much on the populist right of this, so much so that she's very anti-Israel, which I do kind of want to bring up. That I find it hilarious that I've on X there's all these complaints like, oh, Israel's has too much control in the GOP. Oh, APAC is lobbying everybody. It's a floor and influence campaign. And then she's taking money from Russia. Okay, so what was all that complaint about Israel? Like, all right, but yeah, I mean, that's just, I think you're right. It's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, just a funny little side note. Definitely good for the memes. Definitely good for our golden era of memes that we're in. So.
Well, I know I said that was the final topic, but I did remember one that I forgot to write down that seems really important now. That's been a big, news story. Tucker Carlson brought on some I know for people who can't see me, I'm using historian in air quotes, but who made a pretty radical idea that it was actually Churchill who's like the big problem of World War II that, caused the war to happen as it did, and was the one that we really need to criticize for actions done during the war. I'm glad to see that most of right-wing commentary has kind of tried to critique this and point out that it's stupid. The main defense I hear from some on X about this is like, well, the fact that everybody overreacted kind of just proved his point that there's this myth of World War II and you can't criticize anything about the approved story. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, can we just please, for the love of God, stay away from Holocaust revisionists? This just seems like I don't know. This is I'm only 23, but I don't know a thing or two about politics, and I don't know. This doesn't seem like a winning issue, guys. And Churchill, I mean, yes, in case we need to state the obvious, was not the bad guy in World War II. I actually didn't know that this was what brought on the hilarity of that day on Twitter. Thank you for inciting me. I did see a lot of people debating on it that day on Twitter, but did not know what the source was. So I will have to check back and get a better grasp on this. But yeah, it's still fascinating case study there. But yeah, please, Tucker, no more weird interviews. I understand you're on this weird path since getting fired from Fox, but just no more. We can't have conservative commentator Tucker Carlson interviews blank be the headline every week, and sometimes that be Holocaust revisionist. That's just not good for the movement.
Well, I thought Kevin Spacey was bad enough, but then with this guy, I mean, what's next? Bill Cosby? Like, it's just really misunderstood. Like, So, well, I guess we're kind of already going to be on the same page with that. Some pretty low hanging fruit. I guess, it's only uphill from here though, as long as we don't have to do that every week. I guess we can talk about some light items. I've been kind of curious about this for a while. The Collapse of Concord. It's apparently a live, what's it called? Live service game, which is like, you play with other people online, that they put it in development for 8 years, spent like $300 million on it, and they had to shut it down the other day because there were so few people on it. Nobody could play. It took like 8 minutes to of waiting in a lobby to set up a match. So they finally just cut the cord and gave everybody a refund who bought the game.
Wow.
I guess the political angle to this is that a lot of people are saying that it has to do with woke identity. Like a lot of the characters in it, like, obviously seem kind of like woke caricatures. They give the characters, they give them pronouns, even the robots. And I heard from somebody on the internet that apparently in the game you actually have them do like woke things, which I didn't even look into that, but just kind of, I guess this is an actual legitimate case of go woke, go broke. So that was nice to see.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So they worked on it for 8 years, had it online for 2 years.
No, they had it online for 11 days.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah.
There, and it just collapsed because no one was playing it.
Yeah, there's just nobody playing. It's like it was unplayable because you couldn't find a team because there is no like campaign where you just play by yourself. So if there's nobody else doing it, I heard at one statistic that there were actually more developers on the game than there were people playing it on the game. Well, Colby, what's the story about this Minecraft movie teaser?
Okay, so 4 days ago, Warner Bros. Released a teaser trailer for not the Minecraft movie. It's called a Minecraft movie, and everyone's crapping on it. It looks awful. Jason Momoa's in there with the
no.
He's in a pink frilled leather jacket and has a really fake looking blonde long haired wig. I guess he and 3 other characters get warped to Minecraft, and they meet Jack Black, who's casted as Steve. It's literally just modern common day Jack Black in a blue t-shirt. They didn't even bother to cut his beard or anything. It's the same gray beard he has now. And the character design was really interesting. They tried to go with both a realistic looking for the Minecraft mobs. They tried to make them look realistic but also blocky, and it didn't work. The sheep is notoriously like a meme because of how ugly it is. And then there's a llama that looks pretty bad. It looks like the piglins from the Nether are the villains or something.
Oh my gosh, this looks horrible. You're right.
Yeah, and the jokes don't land at all.
So they're just doing the Jumanji plot line all over again. But
the Jumanji was good.
Yeah, Jumanji was good. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, no arguing there. So when are we going to be realizing that Jack Black this whole character arc is just not funny? When was the last time someone actually laughed at something Jack Black? Was it 2005? I don't know.
I laughed at him in Jumanji. I'm going to be honest. I thought he was great in Jumanji.
Yeah. So they
feel like he's putting like his fingers in things he shouldn't belong in. Like, because wasn't it him and was it Lizzo that were in Mandalorian season 3?
Yeah.
And everybody hated it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I thought in that case particularly, I thought Jack Black did fine. He didn't really try to be Jack Black too much. It was more Lizzo being in it that I saw people pissed at. But it still was weird seeing Jack Black. I remember watching that episode for the first time. I recognized the voice. I couldn't think who it was for a couple seconds. There was a far distant shot of Jack Black, and I thought, wait a second, is that? And then they did a close-up of him. And I said, why is Jack Black in Star Wars?
Well, and I think that was the issue, not even necessarily either the actors, but it's just like they wouldn't like have him go away. It was just like, I mean, it completely, instead of being, a fun, like, cameo, it's like, okay, this is completely taking me out of the immersion. Like, neither of these actors seem like they should be in a Star Wars TV show.
I'll also defend Jack Black real quick. He was probably the star of the show in the Mario movie. I don't know if y'all saw that.
Wait, was he Mario?
He was Bowser.
Oh, he was good in Bowser.
Yeah, he was a good Bowser.
They took a funny angle with the whole thing of him being in love with Princess Peach.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Clay, do you have a light item? I assume it's football related.
I just wanted to say one thing. Jack Black, the last tweet on his Twitter page, is like 3 months old now. It was, I am very proud to endorse Joe Biden for president. I just wanted to comment on that. I'm gonna tweet that right now. I'm gonna say this aims pretty badly.
Oh, that is kind of funny, actually.
But no, I will spare my spiel of coping about Texas Tech football for. I mean, I'm sure the way I see it, I have 10 more weeks to complain about Texas Tech football. So why would I get it out? Why would I get it out? Why would I get it out early when I can give you the full season review and actually, I don't know, tear out my eyeballs or whatever by the end of the year. So we'll leave it at that as far as my light items go. But I was also equally terrified by the Minecraft movie trailer. Wonder if they're going to put politics into it. I mean, that's just that kind of seems like a given, right?
You know what's going to be the piglins.
Climate change. It's going to be climate change. I can tell you now.
Honestly, that's a good bet.
I think the piglins are going to be oppressed. They got banished to the Nether for being ugly or something like that. So that the villagers are going to be racist. Say that, or they could do that with the pillagers actually, because the pillagers are just gray villagers that are evil. So,
wait, even better. It could be about colonization. It's like
there we go.
Yeah. Colonizing the Minecraft world.
No, that's it. The villagers try colonizing the Nether for resources, and the piglins are fighting back, and it's a just cause on their part. That's what it's going to be. And then Jason Momoa is probably going to, I don't know. Oh, one other thing about that trailer. There's one scene where Jason Momoa hits a hammer on a crafting table, and it makes like a double bucket thing. Mm-hmm. But on the crafting pattern, there's just random like iron bars and iron nuggets laying scattered, not even in a real pattern on the grid. So he just throws a bunch of iron on the table and just hits it with a hammer, and it becomes 2 buckets. They didn't even try to make it look like an original crafting recipe or anything.
Interesting. Well, I probably will not watch the movie. I can say that right now.
Probably won't either. Well, I'm tempted to because it looks so bad.
See, they've won. They've putting out crap, and you keep watching it because like it can't possibly be that bad, could it?
Oh no, I believe it will. It's just I like enjoying those, going there and thinking, oh my gosh, this looks awful. I will admit, I did that for the Dora movie 5 years ago, and it actually ended up being not awful.
Look, if I'm going to watch a bad movie that has woke concepts in it, I'm going to watch Robin Hood. Like,
Wait, a bad movie, Paul? I mean, how would you dare besmirch the cinematic classic of Robin Hood?
He's Robin of the Hood.
Of the Hood.
All right. Well, I should say that's a good stopping point. Thanks for listening to From the Brink. Please subscribe, rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Special thanks to Music FX for our intro music. This has been From the Brink.